I want to say hello to everybody that's watching the stream. Hello and thank you for watching. Today should be an interesting stream because I was actually watching a stream earlier this week from another popular YouTuber, and they were talking about flat Earth, and I was just like, people still believe in this stuff? People still think the Earth is flat? Grifter, you and me both, man. I actually want to get some flat Earthers in here. If we're going to take a look at some flat Earth videos today, I figured that'd be pretty fun. Because for me, like, this stuff is like actually kind of ridiculous. Worse than hardcore vegans. See, I'm vegan, right? But I'm not pretentious. I was actually watching the Quarter Rings video yesterday, and he kind of rubbed me the wrong way with his vegan comments. I essentially don't give a F what anybody eats, bro. Like, it's your body, I don't care. You know? Now, interestingly enough, I did do like all the vegan activism. Then I thought how wrong it is for me to determine what somebody else should do, which defeats the purpose of, you know, it defeats the purpose of having the choice. If you're going to demand people do something that you think is morally correct, it defeats the purpose. Because morality is subjective. So it's not for me to determine what I think is right for you. I thought these masks were supposed to be going away. They're still here. I'm the same. I get yelled at when I eat meat. Bro, you could eat 32 chickens in front of me and I would not bat an eye. Wouldn't care. In fact, most of my friends eat meat. Like, I don't hang out with many vegans. And that's also by nature of, like, what I'm into, right? I'm into cars. I'm in circles that people don't really have the same kind of lifestyle, but I think that as human beings, we're a little bit more nuanced in that we all have our little individual things, but overall, we can all come together and have a good time. $32 chickens? Well, I wouldn't put it past anybody, you know. 32 is a lot of chicken, though. That's a lot of chicken. How about I put it like this? You could eat 32 chicken nuggets in front of me and I wouldn't bat an eye. How about that? I think 32 chicken nuggets is a little bit more reasonable. Kenneth, you actually have chickens, right? Where you live at? Or do you have something else? I know you have some type of animals on your farm. Brigadin, what's going on? Are you a flat earther? We need some flat earth counterparts. Some flat earth. You had a few down to one. The coyotes get to them? Damn. Alright, looks like we got everything in here. Shit, we may be able to find some of those Vandal masks still. Nah, pretty sure it's a sphere. I'm pretty sure it's a sphere too. Like I'm almost positive. I'm almost 1,000% sure that it's a sphere. But I would like to get some flat earthers in here so we could have some counter arguments. Although they probably wouldn't be very good ones. But I think it's interesting the things they talk about. I like these RSI flight suits. I assume they really didn't believe it. It's just something I like to say. I didn't think they believe it either. I thought it was just like a phase people go through. Most of the counter arguments are very thin. A few have good ones using mathematics and physics for their arguments. Yeah, even with mathematics though, like, if you use mathematics, most of the time it's going to prove the Earth is round. Yeah, not like I was in the military and stuff. Like, being in the military, and like I'm pretty sure, like, if the Earth was flat, like we'd know about it. It's not the case. Some more red boxes in here. Alright. Greeks figure out the Earth was round with a sphere using a sun and a few pillars. Yeah, it doesn't really take much. I mean, like, even if you just... a flat earther, right? If you're a flat earther and you're watching this video, like, just go outside and, like, fix your camera on the star and do a time lapse, right? And you'll see like the rotation of the Earth. You'll see that it's spinning. And the other thing is, like, depending on where you live in the planet, depends on what stars you see. Like, people who live in Australia see different stars than people who live in California. You know what I mean? We have the internet and smartphones, and we get dumber and dumber every generation. Yeah. Yeah, that's a problem. You're not wrong about that, Grifter. You're not wrong about that. I mean, even if I use this game as an example, if I look around, like, you would say, like, this terrain is flat because you don't see, like, any real curvature. But if I was to hop in this ship right here and start flying around, you get up to a high enough altitude, you'll see that it's a sphere. You know what I mean? So I don't get people sometimes, but nonetheless, let's take a look at some of this evidence. So-called evidence. Let's see what they're talking about.
The truth destroys our economy.
This video will prove the Earth is flat. No joke, 100% serious. We are currently in North Carolina and I'm going to fly to Hawaii while my friends simultaneously fly to Botswana, Africa, aka the other side of the Earth. Once we are on exact opposite sides of the world, we have a test we want to perform. If this test fails, the Earth is flat. I promise.
So I'm waiting to board my flight, and I'm actually pretty nervous. What if the pilot isn't paying attention and accidentally flies off the side of the Earth? The government says people die in shark attacks, but we both know sharks are not real. It's clearly just people that were on a plane that flew off the side of the Earth, and then they just needed to cover up.
57% of you don't think it's flat. Nah, it's a cube.
For those of you people that don't know, the cube theory was debunked in 1920. Some crazy nut jobs still believe in it, but obviously they're insane. It's clearly flat. Here's all the proof you need. Fortnite is flat, which means our Earth is flat. Duh, Fortnite wouldn't be wrong.
What you're looking at right now is a bunch of clouds. You may not know this, but clouds are actually made by the government to disguise the fact that the world is flat. Think about it. If it wasn't for these clouds, you'd be able to see.
I think this guy's trolling. I really think this video is trolling us.
To the edge of the Earth. That would ruin everything.
We made it, guys.
We almost were late. Is Earth round or flat?
Flat. If you put water on Earth, it would fly up.
All right, so we just heard that our flight got delayed because of a ground stop, but this will not stop us. Is there any chance we're gonna like fall off the edge of the Earth?
Alright, let's call Tyler and see what they're up to.
Hello?
Hey, are you ready to prove the Earth is flat?
Dude, you have no idea how ready you are. I think this is gonna be the proudest moment of my entire life.
We're gonna disprove all our teachers. Alright, I'm T-minus 20 hours away. 20 hours till the world gets woke.
All right, we made it in New York safely. We're pretty excited about going to Africa.
Earth is flat or round?
No, don't know.
Do you know if the Earth is round or flat?
Is the Earth round or flat? Round?
What?
Yeah. Is the Earth round or flat?
This pizza
No, the Earth.
is flat.
Exactly. Okay, good. You got it right. If you look closely, this is the strongest magnet on the face of the Earth. And I actually got my hands on one.
So I arrived in Hawaii a little bit early. And while I'm waiting for Tyler to land in Africa, I want to prove the world isn't a donut. I know it's crazy and might seem hard to believe, but some people think the Earth is a donut, and we're gonna prove that wrong.
Hey, what's up, man?
I need you to fly to Illinois and help me test and see if the world's a donut.
A donut? Yeah, that sounds, yeah.
Yeah? Alright. Let me know when you land in, like, what, a day or whatever?
Yeah, it'll take me about a day to get there, but yeah, I'll be there. Probably like tomorrow sound good?
Yeah, tomorrow works. Alright, call me when you get there.
So even to that point, right, Grifter? To the point that you're making, so in the Navy, we have our ships, right? And as we're going through the ocean, our ships are being moved around by the ocean. So we have these things called gyros, which stabilize our weapons. But the gyro also has another function. Say that we're shooting at a target, and you know how like the ocean goes up the further away you get from a target. So what this gyro does is it automatically adjusts the shot for that crest in the ocean, so that if we're shooting at another ship or something, our rounds don't like hit the water. You know what I mean? Of course, bullets still have like drop off and things like that, but the way that ship combat happens now, it's not like in the 1800s or whatever when ships were like right next to each other. We're shooting at each other from much further distances now. So when we're doing that and we're making like all of our movements in the water, we are trying to ensure that our rounds, because they're expensive, they're just not hitting the ocean. Yeah, I know about Admiral Richard Byrd.
Currently right here.
The government actually ruined his life, if you guys don't know. They made it seem like he was cooking for Cocoa Puffs.
Please, somebody help! These outlaws came out of nowhere and opened fire!
I don't think we're gonna, well, it's not always that we're shooting off the top of the waves. It's just that sometimes we are at a far distance from our target, and sometimes the only picture that we have of the ship is the top of it. You know, so if we can only see the top of the ship, even if we shoot the top of that ship, right, what we can see, that that shell is going to hit the water because of how far we are away from that ship. So what the computer does is it automatically adjusts that shot so we don't have to manually like aim above the ship to hit it. Bench, what's going on, man? How you doing? Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get what we need looking at a Mr. Beast video. Have to find some other ones. Somebody find me like a good Flat Earth video to watch so we can dissect it. Pretty good. I was trying to find some try to find some of these flat earthers, but they don't want to come up in here.
Thank God somebody came. My ship's completely offline. Can you cover me while I fix it? Contact. Parents know you go around shooting people? Almost there. Almost there. Line. Shooting at me made you feel big? Anyone else seeing spots? Or is that just head trauma? Ship destroyed.
It's starting to get cold out here, man. You start wearing socks now. But we haven't got any flat earthers in here. Sad.
I need you to protect me. Now get back here and protect me.
I mean, I like a good conspiracy theory, but some conspiracy theories are just stupid.
Me down.
Was there another one out here? Oh, there's two Mustangs. Yeah, some of the videos are hard to find now.
Check files. I was a goner. Thanks.
I like a good conspiracy, but I just recognize that most of them are not. Most of them aren't very good. Most of them aren't well thought out. I keep finding the video of the guy who died in his homemade rocket trying to prove the Earth is flat. Yes, I'm trying to look for videos too, but I'm having the same issue. I can't find any of the good videos. Most conspiracy theories don't stand up to the money test or the human nature test.
Oh, thank God somebody came. My ship's completely offline. Can you cover me while I fix it? Guy down. Got more bad guys on my scope. Almost there. Almost there.
I haven't looked too much into the Kyrie Irving thing.
Online. Enemy down. Oh.
I think Kyrie Irving has a lot of things about a lot of stuff on his.
Kill. I thought I was a goner. Thanks.
Yeah, I just know that Kyrie Irving's in a lot of hot water right now from his so-called anti-Semitic arguments.
Channels! All channels! I'm under attack and need help!
Yeah, I don't even really watch basketball myself anymore.
You heard my comm, that's amazing. I need some help mopping up these bastards.
I used to watch like during the playoffs. I don't even watch that anymore.
I thought I was a goner. Thanks.
I still watch football from time to time, but as far as like sports, I mostly watch combat sports now. It's much more entertaining, in my opinion. Alright, let's see if we can find some some other. There's a Jubilee video, but I don't like how they edit their stuff. Jubilee's a little bit deceitful in their editing. There's a lot of stuff debunking flat Earth on here. Of course, you have Logan Paul. He would believe in flat Earth. Freaking idiot. I guess we can watch this Jubilee video. I mean, it's like the only thing that's on here.
Hey guys, welcome back to Middle Ground.
Before we jump in, we've got a huge announcement. A lot of folks have been asking for this for years. We're finally giving you the first ever Jubilee podcast called Radical Empathy.
That's right, we are really proud and excited to share it with you guys. It actually features an interview with somebody in this episode, so stick around until the end and we'll tell you more about it.
For now, enjoy the episode.
The one on my right, the sphere, if you think that is the shape of the Earth, point to it now. If you think the other model is the shape of the Earth, point to it now.
2, 1, 0.
This should be good.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Anybody out there?
All step for man.
I've got pirates all over me. I need assistance here.
What do you think the shape of the Earth is?
I don't think. I know for a fact it's a globe.
The Earth is flat.
It's like we have this picture of reality that's a big puzzle piece, and then one of those pieces just wasn't fitting.
I'm always open to having a discussion with someone who is holding a wrong belief like this.
Are you willing to change your mind on this?
I'm not. The evidence is so much.
Nobody wants to be a flat earther, but if you showed me incontrovertible evidence, I would definitely go back. Who wants to ridicule?
I'd like to tear them to pieces.
I've listened to punk rock since high school, actually.
I'm Jim Underdown, Executive Director of the Center for Inquiry West in Los Angeles and the chair of the CFI Investigations Group.
I'm Spencer Marks, one of the senior members of the CFI Investigations Group, Science Advocate.
I am Marina Yeri. I'm a theoretical physicist, and I'm with the University of Irvine.
I am Wendell Walton. I am a Chief Learning Officer for a young startup.
I'm Shelley Lewis. I'm a graduate of West Point, critical thinker, and jumped out of airplanes.
My name is Dan Glatman. I work as Dan the Waterman in the drinking water filtration industry, and I'm a truth seeker.
Thank God somebody came. My ship's completely offline. Can you cover me while I fix it?
Well, I've been a Christian for 30 years, so the Bible is a flat earth book. You have to take it literally. Like, for example, in Isaiah, when it talks about how the earth is like a clay wax seal that's stamped with upturned edges, that's just not some fancy story. That's a simile. It is life.
Right? Absolutely. And in Isaiah it talks about too, and I'm a Christian, on the circle of the earth. There's a difference between a circle and a...
Here's my issue with people who use the Bible as like proof of anything. It's like you weren't there when it was written. So you're going off information that you also don't have. And I'm not saying telling people to like knock it, but I'm just like, if you're gonna ridicule a scientist for that same thing, well, you weren't there either. You know what I mean? So I find that to be a very strange argument.
Got a surprise for ya!
Let me get the video back on here real quick.
Well, exactly. If you look at the original Hebrew, it means this. There's over 200 scriptures in the Bible that point to the flat earth.
So this notion that you need God or some higher power to create the earth or the universe is very old, and was initially posited by people of a pre-scientific age. Since then, we have learned quite a bit about the universe coming into existence, when that happened. Modern humans don't get their cosmology, they don't get their physics, they don't get their knowledge of the universe from the Bible or any ancient text.
It's sort of like the God of the gaps. Once people used to believe that lightning was God's wrath, and throwing these lightning bolts, but once we understood it was a natural process, God shrank a little bit more because now we couldn't attribute those lightning bolts to God. We had to attribute that to the real science. The other thing, the point about the Bible specifically for me is, why is that one particular text the correct one? You choose to believe that, and that's fine. But there's so many other writings and so many other books. Why weren't they correct? Why is just the Bible correct?
Well, what you'll find in a lot of these ancient religions is they're all flat earth religions. All their cosmology goes back to being a flat earth within an enclosed system. So it's not just the Bible that teaches this. It's many different religious.
So one problem I have is trying to explain phenomena happening in nature
Fly away from me and we are done.
by
You hear
holy
me?
books. Those are religious books. Those are not books of science. And it is wrong to infer or deduct scientific
Grifter, I agree with that.
readings out of those books.
My name is Wendell. I am a logical, biblically based, and scientific flat earther. I didn't start out, and no one starts out as a flat earther, but I had a lot of questions. So I actually got to the point where I had to go out and put my own eyeballs on it. So we went out to an observation at Salton Sea, and things just didn't.
Well, according to them, I think that nothing is outside of the firmament. I think that's their argument. But that doesn't make sense because, like, if the sun was inside or close to the earth, like, I think this place would literally be on fire. Like, they don't understand how big the sun is. You know what I mean? So for me, none of that stuff really makes sense what they say.
Add up down there. So we've gone back probably a dozen times, and I can guarantee you that there is no curvature over distance.
The internet has played an important role in confirming my view of this topic.
That's the problem.
We have the advantage of information today that's outside of channels 2, 4, and 7 and the few networks that are corporately owned. It's pretty easy to say YouTube isn't research, but when you spend enough time, you're picking up quite a bit. And with the discussion groups, panels, we've gone against opposition. We've opposed ourselves. Surprisingly enough, flat Earth is its own worst enemy. So it's not that easy for us to come to consensus. And we find that consensus is orchestrated and not actually scientific.
My grandfather used to tell me growing up, never believe anything you read in the newspaper, right? He told that to me. Now, with the age of the internet, it's like, how much of this misinformation are you getting there? And when you have like eyewitnesses taking video of something, you do have to take everything with a grain of salt. That's why, because of my my multimedia background, I knew that all that stuff could be faked. You know, take it into Photoshop, take it into After Effects.
Okay, this is at the core of the issue of why there are so many flat earth believers out there right now. The problem is the information from someone who decides to start a website or produce a YouTube video is not reliable. When I have a toothache, I go to a dentist. When my car breaks down, I go to a mechanic. When you have questions about cosmology, you should go to an astrophysicist, you should go to a physicist, you should go to people who have spent years and years studying these ideas. Not some 6-minute YouTube video. There's a percentage of people that if they saw a YouTube video that was not within their scientific chops to refute on the face of it, would believe anything out there.
One of the things I will say is NASA.gov has their own documents out there that we get to vet, which is through the Freedom of Information Act. And would you agree that NASA documents, if they're on display, that we should be able to go and research inside there?
NASA is not proving that the Earth is flat.
Well, they say it in 14 of the
You
documents.
should read what NASA says, and you should listen to what
I
NASA
would
says.
love to see your NASA evidence that the Earth is
It's
flat.
only their contradictory issues.
Okay,
let's see us here.
We're all familiar with the Earthrise photo, right? The Earth is rising over the moon. We're all familiar with it. As a NASA, you can go out to NASA's site, you can download the original, right?
I already know what you're going to ask.
So you bring up the luminance on it, and you can see where it's cut out and pasted there.
They're showing us doctored images that are clearly doctored. The blue marble is a very famous image from 1972. When you talk to the artist from NASA, his name's Robert Simmons, he talks about exactly how it was created from data, and it's not a photograph whatsoever. He added clouds,
Let me explain.
he added a highlight of the
If
sun.
you take, you know, on your phone, most phones have that panoramic image. When you do that, you're taking a series of pictures, and the phone cleverly stitches that together.
How it's presented. It's presented as a real
So when
photograph.
NASA takes real photos and they either clean them up for color or they stitch them together so it's one large image, it doesn't mean they're CGI.
You're talking about composites.
But he's right though.
On what you call you could even get me into a virtual construct if I can't find the orders myself. It appears to me to be a stationary plane, as opposed to the vastness of infinity of space. I would find it to be an ice plane where we have a localized sun and our environment.
Hired you to protect me, now get back here and protect me.
Have misled us on television. This is a brilliant opportunity to speak. We've been suppressed, censored by mainstream media. Alternative media is just a thing of beauty for me.
So 77,000 government-sponsored scientists, 26 space countries, etc., all lying and all able to keep the truth from someone without leaking, and are able to agree with one another. Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. Like the stitching image is a very good point, because like with these cameras that they use in space and all this stuff, there's only so much of an image that they can take with a lens, right? So they have to stitch images together. Like even like with most smartphones now, if you took your smartphone outside and you took a picture of the moon, it's going to digitally alter that picture of the moon to give you a much clearer, more concise picture of the moon. That's what it would do. Does that mean the moon is fake because it's digitally altering the image, where it's adding in things from the internet, for instance, to take that picture? No, it doesn't mean that. That's just how the technology works. And they can only take, like I said, a picture of so much stuff at one time because of the position of their orbit and all these other factors. That doesn't mean that it's fake or that it's CGI. That's just how photography works. So I just think these people don't understand photography. Eddie Bravo says that NASA painted all of the pictures from the 70s and 80s. Of course they did. Why wouldn't they? That's like any picture from the 70s, any picture from the 70s and 80s, like whether that picture's of a lion or that picture's of the earth, all of those pictures are edited. They're all doctored. So are we going to say pictures of lions are fake too?
I'm running.
They think they are
I'm
uneducated.
running for this.
Well, they certainly think they're educated.
And they're following quite a bit of, the university system, what we call scientism.
Right, scientism.
Obviously is the belief in what's written, where we tend to be exploring in the field.
Hold on.
Physical property.
They say they have a belief in what's written, right? Scientism is like a belief in what somebody else says, but they're doing the exact same thing. Even if you had a camera device that could take one complete picture of a moon's plane-sized objects, humans don't have the eyes that can see it all at once. Yeah. Like, even if you just look at a basketball, right? If you look at a basketball, you can't observe a basketball in 3 dimensions all at once. Meaning you can't observe all sides of that basketball at one time. You would have to move the ball around with your hands, or you would have to move around the ball yourself to see that it's a sphere. And that's with any 3-dimensional object, right? Like if I hold this, I have a bottle in my hand right now, right? I can't see all 3-dimensional sides of this bottle right now. I would have to move it around. The same thing with a human being. Like, a human being's in 3 dimensions, but I can't observe a human in 3 dimensions unless I move around the human being or the human being moves around me. Human eyes are the most amazing things, yet the most flawed. Yeah. Yeah, we don't see that much of visible light. So what do we know? Really?
Not theories of any kind. We're using actual measurements that are calculated not by our guidelines, but the guidelines of science as we know it. I can only hope they're uneducated as opposed to disingenuous.
Well, that's the other thing too, because we know that at least on a large scale, the government has been disingenuous, and they're pushing a narrative, right? So it's hard for us. I mean, I'm sure that you've met people too. It's like, look, are you haven't looked into it yet, or are you a shill? Are you part of a disinformation?
Okay, so I would agree that there's a lot of things that the government's keeping from people, right? The orientation of the Earth and the solar system is not one of those things, right? It just simply isn't. Because if the Earth was something other than what it currently is, I think the evidence for that would be a lot greater. And I think that the issue is that they don't really get the scale of the Earth. I think a lot of these people are people that really haven't left like their own homes, or like they haven't been in a place to really see the vastness of Earth, right? When I was doing that Westpac deployment on the ship, and I had to go do my topside maintenance, and I went out and I really saw like how big the ocean is, I was like, fuck, this shit is huge. Like in all directions, all you see is blue water. And that let me know the scale of the Earth, right? Because we don't really get it. We don't really get the scale. But I'm telling you, go out in the middle of the ocean on a boat, and you're going to get the scale of the Earth. It'll make sense to you.
Campaign.
I don't think you guys are uneducated. I think you're wrongly educated.
I think the problem with what I've seen in the flat Earth crowd is that it's not that they're undereducated, but they, instead of looking at evidence and letting the evidence guide to where the ultimate conclusion is, they start with a conclusion and then they try to cherry pick evidence to support their pre-drawn conclusion. They cast away all the bits of evidence that actually is contrary to their belief system.
I think that you're very well educated as well as you are.
Rigged, I've done plenty of those myself. I've flown from Africa to San Diego, and I'm flown from San Diego to Japan. And let me tell you, those are some long-ass flights. Long-ass flights.
Jim.
Certainly Ali is supposed to get the best education of
yeah,
all of us.
Exactly, and he paid for it too. But more and more professionals are coming on board. They're starting to question their reality. So the thing of it is once you start to really take a hard look at the evidence, and you are unafraid of just standing for the truth wherever that may lead you, then people end up becoming flat earthers.
I'm hoping to be able to tell our side of the story from the inside out. So many times, flat earthers are depicted from the outside in, and I want to be able to share with others empirical data that proves the Earth is not what we think. So when I was 12 years old, I went to space camp, and I met Alan B. Shepard.
Oh, nice.
Yep, and I wanted to be an astronaut, and I wanted to be the first woman to walk on the moon. So for me, I'm a glober. I went into this completely wanting it to be true. And my husband told me, he saw this thing about the fake moon landing. And I was like, you're absolutely crazy. There's no way that the moon landings are fake. And then in 2010, my husband was killed. And so I never really developed that until around 2014 when Flat Earth kind of came back up. And that little voice inside my head said, remember the fake moon landings? Remember when that was brought to my attention? And then I started really critically analyzing that. And I would say, just looking at that evidence, if they can lie about the moon landings, they can certainly lie about pictures and satellites.
Well, so here's where it gets hard for me to talk about things, because I have signed non-disclosure agreements in the military, so there's certain things I absolutely cannot talk about. So the moon landings were faked, but they went to the moon, if that makes sense. It's because of what they saw up there, and if they were actually recording what they saw up there, and people saw what they saw up there, society would be very, very different today, and I can only give you that. That's as much as I can give you without breaking disclosure.
And other things, and so I started going down that rabbit hole of studying. So that was my influence from my husband.
How many lies does it take to make a liar, right?
And being ridiculed for being inquisitive is pretty tough on us. I wouldn't say that I've changed my mind because my mind isn't set. NASA is solely designed to change my mind. It is, from its inception, from its discovery, has been a television program. It's been a space program to sell us on something that they've yet to actually show us. Show me a globe spinning with clouds and a moon. Show me home, and I think I could shut up easily. I think I could shut up.
The timing of your conversion is interesting to me. 20 years ago, the flat Earth world was tiny and insignificant. Enter the advent of the internet, YouTube, online discussion groups, all these new available places where you could find information about everything.
This is true that the evidence as you looked not robust evidence, and the sources you used, they were not reliable sources again. But my problem is that, and I like you guys that you are very skeptical, but at the same time you are not skeptical about your belief system. That should have come first.
You think that that's my foundation for why I believe.
Grifter, there is no advantage for them knowing or telling people that the Earth is flat, other than to see who's stupid. I that would be the only one that I could think of. To see who the really dumb people are on the planet. That could be my only take from that.
I have evidence that proves it's flat.
What type of evidence?
It's not a ball.
What
curvature.
We're being misled. We're being deliberately misled by mainstream
And
media.
what's your evidence?
We see too far. We see too far. We should not be able to see. I live in Dana Point.
Okay.
I can see San Clemente Island, which is 60 miles away.
What do you mean, so what?
Oh, I'm on the beach.
1,100
I'm
feet
on the
tall.
beach.
It is
What do you mean by so what?
I'm on the beach.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Can you see a ship which is going?
Oh yeah, let's talk about the ship that goes
Yes.
over the curvature
Okay.
of the Earth. I love that. So, science has said that when I see a ship go out of my field of view, it's going over the curvature of the Earth, correct?
Yes.
But then I bring my P900 up, and guess what? I can zoom it back in. So is it going over the curvature of the Earth or not?
Absolutely.
Oh, not all the time?
can't.
It's not all the time?
No, you don't see all the ship. The bottom part of the ship is hidden by the
At that
curvature.
distance, you shouldn't see the top
At
of it
all.
either.
If the Earth were truly flat, there would be really hardly any limit. You would be able to stand at the top of the Empire State Building and look towards Chicago, a mere 1,000 miles away, and see the lights of Chicago at night.
No,
Why wouldn't
because you have an atmospheric disturbance.
Very thick.
I've been
water
into
alone.
astronomy since I was 10.
It's faulty logic. It's completely faulty logic.
So this lady here in the middle, talking about Dana Point. See, San Clemente Island is an island that I'm very familiar with, being in the military and being that when I was in the Navy, we used to always shoot that island when we are doing our drills for the ship. So we would practice like invasion with the Marines. So we would go bomb part of San Clemente Island, and then the Marines would come in and do a beachhead. And one thing I can tell you about San Clemente Island, it's a lot bigger than what you think, right? And one thing that these flat earthers don't take into account is the elevation of the peak that they're seeing versus the ground level. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yeah, you can see San Clemente Island, the peak of San Clemente Island, but you can't see the shore of San Clemente Island. You can't see anything below the peak. And that's perfectly normal. And you getting in a camera and zooming it in 50x doesn't mean that it's flat, because even if you zoom it in 50x, you're only zooming in 50x onto the peak. And the gentleman here in the blue shirt, the dark blue shirt, he's absolutely right. If the Earth was flat, you should be on top of the Empire State Building and see Chicago, but you can't. And the biggest thing that we haven't taken into account here, which no one's talked about, is the stars. If someone lives like in the southern hemisphere, they see an entirely different set of stars from what we see here in the northern hemisphere. The stars are completely different, and the moon appears to be upside down. But the flat earthers cannot explain that.
One of the big things I do is investigate extraordinary claims like flat eartherism or ESP or all sorts of things. The Earth is undoubtedly a globe and not flat. This is well supported by gobs of science.
What is the question?
I don't understand the question.
Scientific consensus is possible.
Possible. Anything is possible. I mean, anything is possible. I've got a tremendous issue with consensus and peer review. I've been spending a lot of time arguing with people that argue the other side. And I found that surprisingly, consensus always wins. It was shocking to me that the group with the majority has an incredible advantage. As scientists, flat earthers, truthers, punks, we're at an incredible disadvantage.
Let's talk about scientific consensus for a second. You're never going to get 100% of anyone. There is scientific consensus on a global Earth. There's scientific consensus on evolution. A lot of big issues.
Use the word theory.
Do you know what a theory in science is? An extremely
and a fact
is
a fact.
Don't mistake this word theory.
You are
in
not
science. Me. It's not conjecture. It's not.
It's an explanation. Is it by definition? It's an explanation.
It's a deep.
Well, let's talk
So this
about
is
a fact.
something
Show me a
people
fact.
made
then.
a mistake.
Why
They
aren't
think
all facts
theory is-
theories?
In science, the word theory is the highest level that you can give something because it's so well supported.
What about a fact?
That is is a fact. It's
not a fact you would call it a
You know why?
fact.
Do you know why? Because in science, there's always room for improvement. There's always room to find better, to tweak and find better information.
So that is how science works.
It gets better, refined over time, as opposed to flat Earth theory, which never gets refined. It simply is what it is.
New ideas have limited access to media and limited exposure. Until we're in university curriculums, we will continue to appear uneducated.
Well, that's not true. In the history of science, we had many occasions that the idea it was not welcomed by the society. Einstein was one of them. Galileo was one of them. But if your theory is an authentic one, and it can go through this hardship of scientific method, eventually will win.
I used to believe that science was after the truth, right? We all just want to know what the truth is. Science has been trying so hard to divorce itself from the idea of a creator when God's intent was to create science to lead you to him. You know, sometimes things seem supernatural that we are able to explain later through, science. Okay, I understand. But there are other things as well that are supernatural, that go beyond the natural, that we can only explain through believing in a creator, right?
This is my big issue with science, scientific approach and non-scientific approach. You are absolutely right. In science, we are after the truth. And we are hoping by each day we're getting closer and closer to the truth. We never get there. Never.
Well, I know that's true for you. And
no, that's a science. That's you guys. You think you do have the truth. Now let's look at the evidences. As you were mentioning, you do have the conclusion. Let's find the evidences. Science doesn't work that way.
That's not true. That is not
Well,
true.
you are saying you are
could-
referring to Jesus, who many billions of people do not believe, including myself.
And many more billions do.
So what?
So who's right?
Of course I can.
So
When you say that we start with a conclusion and then try to match everything to make it work, like that to me is complete dishonesty.
That's exactly what they're doing, though. Like, they use, a lot of these people use, like, the Bible or whatever religious text for the foundation of their beliefs. But what happens when people don't believe in that? I myself am not a Christian. I'm not an atheist, but I don't subscribe to any religious text. Because for me, like, they're all written by human beings. Right? So, because I think that way, so should I say, like, my beliefs are right because I don't believe in any religious text because they're all written by man? No. That doesn't make me correct. You know what I mean? So they can't use the Bible as proof of what they believe in, because at the end of the day, people don't believe in it, or the text itself is flawed, And I could sit here all day and talk the flaws in the Bible, right? I know it's not perfect because I understand that it's written by human beings, and we're not perfect, right? Another question is, flat earthers can't answer when I shoot at this range. When I start going 750 yards out, why do I have to use the Corliss effect in my digital shot calculator? It's a good point. It's a good point. And like I said, bro, like, all they really have to do is just go to a place where there's no light, where they can clearly see stars, fix the exposure on their camera so the camera can also see stars, do a time lapse, and you will start seeing, like, the Earth spinning. Like, you can see it in real time. I can even probably find photos of this really quick. Do these images right here not prove that the Earth is spinning? This is something any flat earther can do. Does that not prove that we're on a moving plane? Like, this is not hard to figure out. It's not difficult.
Not true at all.
That is what you are doing
No,
right
you're
now.
not. You're making that assumption,
No,
which
it's
I
not
think
my
science does a
assumption.
lot of. So do you make assumptions or not? Does science make
don't know.
assumptions? Does science make
Yeah,
assumptions?
we
course.
sure.
Okay.
We do make assumptions based on things that are well supported, proven, reproven. We don't have
Show
to.
me how you isolate gravity. If gravity
We
is
don't
an
have to-
assumption, show me in a scientific method how you isolate gravity. I kind of feel like I want to develop some of this stuff a little bit more. It feels high level.
I think that it just has to be replicable in nature, right? Whatever you're trying to prove, it needs to exist outside of your religious text. And I think flat Earth doesn't exist outside of any religious text. I just don't think that. I think that at the time those texts were written, people had a very limited worldview, and because of that, they wrote their texts in accordance with those beliefs. Doesn't make them inherently wrong. It's just like that's what they had at the time to go by. That's it. And we're still using that all this time later to determine if the world is flat. I'm sorry, but these are probably the same people who think the world is 2,000 years old. I have trees on my land in Texas that are older than 2,000 years, that have been around more than 2,000 years. So is my tree lying? I mean, come on now.
But I feel like there's so much that I haven't really even touched base on.
Well, I mean, I certainly didn't think that anybody was going on either side was going to flip.
Well, there's still time.
There's still time. I have hope for you, Wendell, and Shelley. I don't know about Dan. I have hope for you too. But you know, certainly I'm glad it's a civil discussion. Hey, what was that? Good. He flipped. Wendell, welcome aboard. The greatest moment in television history, right there. So, I mean, obviously any organization can be wrong with certain things, and they may have individuals that lie or deceive or something, but as a general organization, they're looking for the truth.
Yeah, the idea that NASA and the government is lying to us about the shape of the Earth is the height of conspiracy theories. In order for this to be true, the literally hundreds of thousands of people who at some point over the last 50 or 60 years would had to be somewhat complicit in this, and nobody spills the beans at all.
Try to read your comment here real quick. I'm a Christian, but also believe there was one or several worldwide high civilizations at the end of the Ice Age. Does that mean my religious beliefs are wrong? No. I don't think so. I just think that no living human being has this thing figured out, and we're all here together, you know what I mean? Like, no one has this figured out. And I agree with the gentleman here with the black glasses and the black hat. Like it's too big of a conspiracy for. It's too big, and it has too many moving parts for people to think that, and to agree. Like, for me, it's like there's no benefit for them telling people the world is round.
Is on the face of it completely unbelievable.
The private does not know what the general is doing. There's compartmentalization happening all the time.
Of course.
So it wouldn't be that far-fetched. Has the government ever lied to us is really the question at stake.
We all agree on that.
Yeah, but now we
Common ground.
now we have NASA.gov, right? And absolutely, they're not lying about anything. They're completely transparent. Everything is true. We'd be foolish to
There's
think
a
that's
difference
true.
here. I'm sorry, this is a fallacy here. There is
Not
a
a
difference.
fallacy.
I'm sure it is.
Go
See,
ahead.
you were talking about a government. Now you are talking about an agency of the government.
NASA.gov.
But this agency is scrutinized by thousands and thousands of scientists around the world. Look, you are dealing with smart people. Believe me, you are dealing with smart people.
I don't deny that.
So it is very hard to do that once or twice, maybe, not for the whole time.
What is the proof? Hundreds and hundreds of pounds of moon rocks and dust. And we have distributed those freely to PhD scientists around the world. And not one of those geologists have said, what is this?
Been proven to be fake.
And also and collected on the ice in Antarctica and in the Arctic as well. Those are collected. You don't have to go to the moon to get moon rocks. As a matter of fact, all U.S. Air Force photography prior to 1958 shows a flat Earth. Only NASA shows a sphere.
That is absolutely not true,
Jim. I wouldn't lie to you. NASA's lying to you, my friend.
The other bit of
not myself.
Is we have a laser retroreflector on the moon.
That we're using now.
We still use to this day.
It's sitting there.
You can find to the inch how far away the moon is.
No pictures of home.
That only is there. By the way,
whether or not.
My question to you is, why? Why would all these honest, hardworking people perpetuate this massive fraud? Why would they do this?
What's the benefit of it?
Okay, the benefit of it. They make $52 million a day. Follow the money.
No, the little
Follow
guy.
the money.
The little guy.
That's what when you say all, okay?
But it didn't start out that way. And NASA was not founded to prove the Earth was a globe. It had nothing to do with the way they were founded.
Well, if you go and study
Are you sure?
Yeah, positive.
Really?
Yes. Somebody has to be a voice for reason, and somebody has to be a voice for truth. It would be a fantasy to believe that I would change somebody's mind from the other three. However, if there's somebody sitting on the fence, and this is the first introduction to this debate, perhaps they'll hear the reasonable voice and say, hey, that makes more sense than having this pizza-shaped Earth.
I can put myself in the mindset of the other side.
I used to be a ball earther. Everything you say right now is completely what I used to agree to. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
For me, I think the correct way to do any kind of investigation or to examine things is by literally putting yourself in that mindset of the other person. So I do that. I disagree with your position, but I completely understand from your perspective what you're saying.
The trouble I have understanding your perspective is, in the modern world, unless you live in a cave somewhere, you have to believe in science implicitly. I met a flat earther, a young woman who said, I don't trust anything that science does. And that's a...
One thing I've started really looking at is Robert Schlock's claim that based on the Sphinx walls covered about 25,000 years or more, which is about 23,000 years older than current scholars say. Yeah, another good person to look at into that also is Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock is another fantastic mainstream archaeologist who talks a lot about a lot of stuff in Egypt being a lot older, and he also goes around other places around the world. Like Graham Hancock is like the real life Indiana Jones. If you're into that kind of stuff, he uncovers a lot of stuff. He talks about a lot of things. He's another guy that's kind of had his career ruined, but he has such a big following that I don't think it really affects him all that much. But yeah, I think that those structures are a lot older than what they say. Hell, there's pyramids in the Grand Canyon. You want to talk about Egypt? There are pyramids in the Grand Canyon. And that's something you can go look at on Google right now. There's pyramids, there's sphinxes, there's all kinds of stuff in the Grand Canyon. Yes, I'll listen to all those guys.
Problem because human beings can't replicate the whole body of science every single generation. At some point, you have to trust what's already been discovered and proven and move on to the next thing. Otherwise, we're not going to advance at all. I mean, when you turn that key ignition in your car, you expect the car to start out. And not blow up. Because science puts you in that position. So it's really hard to understand how people would know in their hearts that science achieves wonderful things and then just jumping ship when it comes to this other issue.
We're not drawing conclusions. We understand the mechanisms that made that car work. There is no theories and no disputed conclusions involved there. It's not a good analogy. Can I admit a great compromise that we have to experience being against the grain people? Is we have to literally sit in a group and decide whether or not we can afford to have an opinion, and that's tough.
I actually agree with you there because we're the same thing. I mean, I think skeptics go through this and atheists go through this. I don't believe in God. When I'm around religious people, I take a chance socially when I tell them I'm an atheist. So I know it takes some courage to follow your beliefs, and I appreciate that. But I think I've done a lot of research in that venue too. And it's not something I choose to believe in, it's something I have to believe in based on the evidence.
See, what I get from you guys is that, so how come you believe
Everest Harbor's so bad right now.
I've seen neither of them, right?
I've seen evidence, though.
Well, exactly. So we are looking for evidence. There are many other evidences for Earth not moving.
Well, Grifter, I'll tell you this. There are places in the Grand Canyon that you can't go that are off limits to regular people. Like, even like me when I was in the military, there are certain areas of the Grand Canyon that I couldn't go to, that you needed special clearances to go into. And I find that to be very, very strange. Oh, come on. The frames here at Port Tressler are so bad and they're really pissing me off right now. Coral Castle in Florida is another good one. Yeah, I've heard about that one too.
Flat. My point is that these experiments clearly show that the Earth is globe, and you don't need to go outside the globe to see it's globe.
It's a
You told me you
theoretical.
want the evidence. If you're
That's
saying
not-
that you look only to see something, then I dispute your belief system in God and Jesus or Jehovah or Buddha or Zarathustra or anyone.
You keep going back to religion as being
Because
our
it's coming from
conclusion.
there.
No,
You think
no,
you do
no.
have the
I
truth.
have evidence. I have evidence.
You
for
quoted
what
at
I
the
know.
beginning
She
of
pointed out
this.
physics.
You quoted Bible.
Of
That's
course
the
I did,
reason.
but that is not the only reason I know what the shape of the earth is, and you keep, that's fallacy.
It's not
But she
fallacy.
did bring up the Bible.
It is not fallacy.
It is a fallacy.
They need to be able to, like, when they have debates, I think it's a good thing for people to be able to, like, have, like, reviews, be like, hey, you said this, and that way nobody could, like, back off what they said. She did bring up religion in the beginning of the video.
Theoretical physicist. What I'm doing is the combination of try to understand what happened during the Big Bang, after the Big Bang, or even before the Big Bang. Well, I hope I would be able, particularly to the young generation, to convince them that first, they should think critically. Don't believe anything. They shouldn't take anything for granted. Look at the evidences and examine those evidences. And throw away those claims that are not evidence-based.
I think that's a good idea.
Science, not to put it down, but when you're talking about rocket science, this is very difficult for the majority of people to understand, and it's designed that way. And so, in a lot of ways, hiding behind rocket science is similar to religion. If you look at the Catholic Church back in the days, only we can interpret the Bible. You have to listen to what we say. So in a lot of ways, we're getting that same notion from science that says, only we can interpret what these numbers are. You just need to trust us. But then when we actually do go and test some of their equations and they don't work, does that beg the question for us to go and test it ourselves? Absolutely.
Great thing about science is predictability. Let's for some moment, for a short moment, assume that your model, this flat Earth model, is correct. I don't know, what does it buy for us? What does it predict for us? So my question for you guys would be, next time, bring me something from your theory, your model, that you can predict something which the globe Earth model cannot predict. Then I would change my mind.
I would just say that don't believe anything that I've said. You got to do your own research. And I think what you'll find is that
That's always like a cop-out, as they say.
the only way you're going to do that is if you put your own eyeballs on it.
I don't blame people for being skeptical. I'm skeptical about a lot of different things. I applaud that instinct in you. But you have to go beyond just not believing in something. Ask the hard questions. Ask what qualifies a YouTuber, a book author, anywhere else you're getting this information. What qualifies them to make wide-ranging comments about the shape of the Earth? Look, anybody who can overturn Einstein or some major theory is going to be eventually written in the halls of science for the rest of their life. But they have to come up with the goods. They have to show good science-based evidence that what they say is true, and they have to withstand the test of time and peer review and the rigors of the scientific method.
All right. Thank you. I'm all split.
I'm more liberal, but I definitely respect Ben Shapiro. There's a lot of areas in Eden area that are off limits to Google Maps. A lot of biblical sites should be. I do want to visit the rocks in the desert that leaks water. So one of the things that the dude said towards the end was like, you have to do your own research. But even if the flat Earth model was true, it should be able to predict something, right? So I don't know what his ethnicity is, but I would presume that he's from the land known as India or Hindustan, depending on where you're from in the world. You would have to use that model to be able to predict things. Like, astrophysicists can predict the movements of stars based on their model. Can the flat Earth do the same thing? I don't think that it can, right? Because most of the time, most flat earthers generally are from the United States, right? I think that's the largest population of flat earthers. Some of the things like that weren't answered in this video is like, well, how do you explain the orientation of the moon from the southern hemisphere? How do you explain why we see certain stars and other places don't? You know what I mean? I think these are some of the arguments that are still not being well thought out or well said. The problem is with flat earthers, they simply have never taken the time to understand the science they repeatedly claim is wrong. I think the major problem with flat earthers is they solely base their theories on 2,000-year-old text, right? Instead of understanding that the religious texts they are using were written in a time where they didn't have a lot of scientific advancement, so therefore they couldn't explain a lot of things, right? So now you have this science that exists now, which completely is at odds with their religious texts. So what are they going to do? Are they going to denounce their religious beliefs for an eternity in hell? No, they're going to say the science is wrong and that God is right. Hell, I didn't know anything except for elementary school science. It would be very easy to think the earth is flat. Exactly. Just by telescope, I actually filmed the ISS transmitting to the moon. You don't even need a telescope to do that. You can just get a camera. You can film the ISS with a really good zoom camera. You don't really need a telescope to do that anymore. Took me a few months because the transits are rare and the weather didn't always cooperate. Yeah, the other part about filming the ISS is it has to be flying over your house, right? It has to be flying over your area, so you have to be paying attention to where it's actually at, because it doesn't follow like the same orbit. Yeah, I just think to me, the whole flat earth thing is pretty dumb. It's pretty stupid. Yeah, I just don't think we're gonna find any more videos that are gonna convince me that the earth is flat. I mean, like, I already know the truth, but I don't mind being at least listening, right? Yeah, I don't think we're gonna find any of those good documentaries on here. Any of those good flat earth documentaries. True, but with a telescope you can make out structures. You can actually see the solar panels. That's true too. That's true. Flat earthers are using GPS.
Anybody out there? I've got pirates all over me. I need assistance here.
How's using GPS on a on a flat plane? Make it make sense. Like, I want to know if they use GPS when they go to the store. If they're going to a destination where they have not been before, do they use GPS? Because that's based on a model of a globe. I really wish some flat earther would come and explain these things to us.
You heard my comm, that's amazing. some help mopping up these bastards.
Really, a short time away from that. From space travel being like a routine thing.
More contacts.
Oh my god.
Son of a bitch.
Shit hit right into me. I'm surprised I didn't blow up. And that guy almost hit me.
Got something for you.
Okay, that guy should already be dead by now.
I hired you to protect me. Now get back here and protect me. Kill. I thought I was a goner. Thanks.
They can only model satellites, including GPS, or just high altitude balloons, which is hilarious since the balloons don't go as high. You would need 100,000 of them, which you would obviously see. People such as Alfred and Batman said some people just want to watch the world burn. Speaking of hot takes, I recently rediscovered a tabletop game I played back in the late 80s and early 90s. What game is that? Yeah, I agree with that balloons thing, because they would be everywhere. And seeing like that many balloons would spark the UFO debate again too. It's a sci-fi tabletop game. The lore is 100% believable, super in depth. Unlike Warhammer, it's not 100,000, 2,000 years worth of story. Only 4,600. The game is called BattleTech. That's cool. Sounds interesting. Some may know it as Mech Warrior. It sounds familiar. And I also think that if the Earth was like truly flat, right, then games like Star Citizen wouldn't exist, because like we wouldn't know like how a globe planet works, right? We wouldn't know how anything on a globe would work. We could have estimates, but we really wouldn't know because what would we have to base it on? I think that makes sense, or am I tripping? Because if the Earth was flat, then everything around it would be flat. Like, everything would be disk. The lore is fantastic thing of Game of Thrones on a stellar scale. Knights of Mech Warriors, pilots of giant walking robots. Now, I think if we get some mechs in Star Citizen, I think that'd be a lot of fun too. Make ground combat a lot more fun. I tried playing Battlefield 2042. I tried. I am a diehard Battlefield fan. I played Battlefield since Battlefield 1942. That's how long I've been playing Battlefield for. That's how long I've been playing Battlefield for. And I was sorely disappointed with Battlefield 2042. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I played that one. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, I played that one. But if we want to move on from Flight Earth stuff, I think that I think Battlefield can learn something from Star Citizen. Not by like doing what Star Citizen did in terms of like taking 10 years to make a game. I think that instead of like just having a game with like levels, like they should make an entire planet that's at war, and then like you have to travel to different locations like on that planet. You know what I mean? Like they make Earth or whatever, and like the entire Earth is at war, and you have to travel to different locations, and like there's no loading screens. You actually have to like go between things. And I think that could give it like that more gritty feel, you know? What they were looking for with the new Battlefield. Where is the spaceport? That should be right above it. Carried at 0.1% in the world as a sniper in Battlefield 1. Really only used infantry models with no scopes. My favorite Battlefield was Bad Company 2. Bad Company 2 was a good one. Bad Company 2, I used to get the VSS sniper rifle with a red dot sight, and I would just go around wrecking shop. Oh yeah, I remember that. The mechs. Those mechs were OP though. Those mechs were hella OP. I like Battlefield Bad Company 2 and I like Battlefield 3 the most. I like Battlefield 3 because you could base raid. That's true. Battlefield 3, I was mostly a pilot, though. I didn't really do too much ground stuff. If I was on the ground, I would use tanks. Tanks are my meta. Yeah, Battlefield 3 was like the best. I think Battlefield 3, they got it absolutely perfect. Battlefield 3 was perfect. That was perfect Battlefield. No, tanks in the new Battlefield suck, man. I don't know, like, why in the new Battlefield they designed the tanks in a way to where you can't see to your right. Like, the barrel of the tank, like, literally blocks your view. The Scorpius is so good in ammo. It's for like ridiculous.
Please proceed to assign landing bay.
I used to play about World of Tanks at the few in that game. I haven't tried World of Tanks. That's a mobile game though, right? I'm not really into like the playing games on a phone because I really can't see anything. It's very hard for me to see things on a phone screen. No, it's a free PC game. Oh yeah, I haven't played it. World of Warship was better. I haven't played that one either. You need to slow this thing down. More players, slowed down, more deliberate. Oh, I got you.
Landing complete. Have a pleasant stay.
Actually, I really wouldn't enjoy it that much because I want to see like modern Navy combat. I think the combat we have now is just so much better than what we had back then. You know what I'm saying? If you've never seen a Sea Whiz like shoot off, it's pretty tight. Like, we literally have missiles that shoot out of our ships and that shoot underwater. Like, we have these torpedoes that we shoot from a missile launcher. They shoot up and they go into the water to find subs. It's pretty awesome.
Welcome to the ASOP Vehicle Retrieval System. Please visit us again.
It's exactly where I'm going, is Wally's. Because it's nighttime. Oh no, I just missed the train. Ah, damn it. It's all good. I get what you're saying though. Modern missiles can hit from 100 miles, anti-sub stuff, crazy AMS, down to the 15th decimal. Yeah, like our targeting. I'm not gonna give too much away because I don't want to be giving out government secrets here on the internet. But the things that we can target with our missiles is pretty crazy. Like you would be surprised, like how good the thermal targeting is on one of those missiles. It's pretty good. Like they told me, like they can target it down to pretty much your pocket change. They can detect heat from that. It's that good. And this was like, I was on a ship 10 years ago, so I'm sure like what they have now is even better. Yeah, it's within inches. Definitely within inches of a target. But that's like 10 years ago though, so I'm pretty sure now it's like within like less than an inch. You know, the stuff they have now with these lasers, like it's all like really interesting stuff, if you ask me. Dropping 200-pound warheads on their shoelace, nasty. Never know until you're talking to whoever you believe in. Exactly. It's really nasty stuff. Navy's kind of underrated though. But every war we won is with the Navy. You need us. Or you need them. Not me anymore, because I'm not in it. Say that for the young guys. I love coming here at night. Now, I would like to experience this part of Star Citizen in VR. For a virtual nightclub, they nailed this. Yeah, some of the tech they show movies is already old. A lot of the tech they show movies is already old. I can't buy no drinks. Forget you then. The bartenders are broken. Trying to get drunk. How's the game going tonight? The game's... It's okay, because there's no event going on. My dad said on the local police level, the tech is terrifying. Yeah, you wouldn't believe some of the tech they have. It's pretty crazy. Some of the stuff that you see in movies is really old stuff. No NPCs on station, just wasting whatever moves. Happened to me, whatever. Yeah, sometimes those guards go rogue and they start killing you. They start shooting you for no reason. I think a lot of the scary tech that they have is their facial recognition, the facial recognition software they have now. That stuff is insane. I will give you guys one thing, because this wasn't something that I had to like sign on waiver for. So when I was deployed to Africa, there was a point in time where I was sitting in one of the intelligence buildings and I was getting ready to grab my friend for lunch. And my friend was like, hey, go outside, look at the sky and wave to the sky. And I was like, why? He was like, just go do it. So all right. I went outside, I waved. I came back inside and he showed me a video of me waving at a satellite. And this was a decade ago. That's how good the satellites are. That's how good the images are. He showed me waving at a satellite. Crystal clear. Like you can make out the details in my uniform. You can see my name badge. You can see everything. It's like, what the hell? We'll give you guys that. So it's pretty good. The Chicago police said right now they can track a gunshot within 100 feet. Yeah, I believe it. It's one of the reasons why I don't use any biometrics on my phones. Like I don't use fingerprints. I don't use face. I don't use my face to log into my phones. I don't use none of that stuff. I use the old school way. password with numbers. I tell you, like, if I could, I would still be using a BlackBerry.
Careful, doors are now closing.
I disabled mine. Luckily, the phone I have still uses like the power button for a fingerprint reader, but I don't trust the ones that have it like in the screen, that have it built into the screen, because your fingers are always touching the screen of your phone. Yeah, well, Ring is run by Amazon, I think. I don't trust Amazon. I remember, like, early on in the pandemic, there was a lot of, because like UFC was like the only thing on TV, so there was a lot of advertising for like this. Why did I come here? I went to the wrong location. There was a lot of advertising for like all of this this very strange technology, for like the strange AI technology they were putting out during the pandemic. And I was like, hey, no one's paying attention to this stuff? Like, they have like all this AI stuff that's like determining your speech and like how you talk and like all these things. Yeah, I have security cameras too, and my stuff's on a closed loop network. My stuff is monitored by me only. Like, I even have my own network drive, like my own network storage that's on a separate network that's not attached to the internet. So like when I get done making like all my videos, I back everything up on this network drive that's not attached to the internet. That's how that's how far I take it, you know what I mean? All of my phones still have SD cards. The phones that I use still have SD cards. I will not ever use a phone. Like, if they start making phones without SD cards, I will stop using phones. I don't trust cloud storage. It's vulnerable. What's not vulnerable is my SD card. Can't get that unless you get my phone. And I won't buy a TV. Like, I don't have a TV in my house. But if I were to buy a TV, it would have to be pre-Alexa, because all TVs have Alexa built into them now. And if you guys have noticed, some people watching this video may be too young to understand this, but there was a point in time where you could be able to buy a phone that actually had a detachable battery. Now phones, you can't buy them with detachable batteries anymore. Wonder why that is. That was the right way, it just wasn't loaded in. Frames. Okay, now it's loaded. A lot of writings are kept on my laptop. They never see the light of a network. I was born in '89, so I remember the pre-internet days. I remember the world pre-internet. When the world was still cool, yeah. I think like the era between like pre 2005, I would say. I think that was like the coolest because you still have phones, right? But you can use your phone to call people, right? Before phones were smart, right? You can use your phone to call people, but you still hung out. You still have to use MapQuest and shit like that to get around. When phones became smart, I think that's when the world changed. Map books, I remember that. MapQuest. I remember like one time my mom went to buy a new car. This was like in the 90s. You guys probably remember this. I was still pretty young. But I remember like back in the days, like when you used to buy a car, like they would give you like a free map. The cars would come with like maps and shit.
Tired of travel? Why not rest at the Nest's newly renovated accommodations? Located downtown. Vehicle selected. Stand by. Your vehicle has been delivered to the following location.
I still use a standard paper route for a lot of my maps. Now I feel like anywhere.
Your belongings belong to you. Keep a careful watch on all.
I don't self-censor. I don't self-censor. I think that we got to be men. You know, we have to. If somebody doesn't like what you're saying, tell them to whoop your ass. And if they can't whoop your ass, then tell them to shut the hell up. That's how I feel about it. Remember like the last combat training that I went to for the military, we had to do like this we had to use a map like trekking through the woods and shit. And some of these new sailors had never seen a map before. Like it was like their first time actually looking at like a real map. And I was like, "Are you serious?" It's like that's when I've been in the military for too long. When the new generation of sailors, Marines, airmen, and soldiers don't know what actual freaking maps look like. Like, you've never seen a map before? They had no idea what they were looking at. This one girl had us lost. Bro, we were out there for like hours. It was like nighttime too. We were out there for like a long ass time. I got my group lost at first, and that was only because I misplotted one of my points. But I wasn't like far off. Partly because I had bad handwriting, and if you guys have been around a long time, you guys know what grease pens are. Like you can't really read a grease pen, and like it's like nighttime, so you really can't see. So I was off a little bit.
You are clear to launch.
I actually have a laminated map that I keep with me. It's down in the garage. Just in case, you know.
Thank you, and please visit again.
No problem. We appreciate you stopping by, Grim. I'll probably get off here in a little bit myself. I need to eat something. I'm getting pretty hungry. Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. I've never seen a kid panic so hard when there wasn't a button to roll down the window in his car. Yeah. Gotta let these kids know. Whenever I have kids, they're not gonna be raised in this soft ass way that's being raised now. My kids are gonna learn how to drive a manual car with no ABS, so I'll make sure I keep one around. I don't trust these electric cars neither. But yeah, we're gonna call that a stream. It was fun looking at that flat earth stuff. If you guys have any other suggestions for streams, let me know in my community tab, and I'll see you guys next time.